excellent gaming videos, no better way to hype up and get prepared for today's stream. Hi everybody, warm greetings and welcome to the AKEF Super Racing Challenge managed by IR Esports. Now, the AKEF is the All Kerala Esports Federation, founded in December 2018, and it has become one of the most sought out esports organizations in Kerala. Now, the AKEF is a leading esports venture and the largest gaming community in Kerala, renowned for hosting major esports tournaments, major events like the KPL seasons 1 through 3, the Kerala COD Mobile Championship, Valorant Meta League, Clash of Clan events, and many more have been hosted by the AKEF. Now, they have reached 5 million gamers and almost 10 million in viewership in just the last 2 years. Now, IR Esports is the organization that is also collaborating on this. IR Esports is India's largest e-racing organizer. The IR Esports has created iconic properties in racing esports space, such as the Indian E-Racing Championship, the Volkswagen Virtual Racing Championship, Mumbai's fastest gamer and India's fastest gamer, the Indian Sim Racing League, and many more. Now, IR Esports curates, plans, and executes custom motorsport-based campaigns via esports platforms across multiple mediums. IR Esports is Indian E-Racing Championship. The IERC is India's most prestigious e-racing competition and has completed 4 seasons till date. Now, the IERC attracts India's top sim racing drivers to battle it out for a chance to win a test in a real-life race car. The Mumbai's fastest gamer is India's largest ever e-racing championship of any type. Today in the race director's seat, we've got Gaurav and Firoz taking care of race direction in general. My name is Saidat Ramesh from IR Esports and I will be your commentator for today. I'd like to invite you to join on board as we go for an exciting race around a track that is definitely known for its name, the Temple of Speed, so to speak, as the general racing community likes to refer to it. In this track, we've got almost 84% full throttle, roughly 36 gear changes, and in this track you reach one of the highest average speeds in across any track, more so in the F1 calendar. This time, however, we are not racing F1 cars over here. We will be racing the Tata's FA01 race car, which is loosely based off the Formula 4 Tata's F4 TO14, the car that holds the lap record for Formula 4, made by Lando Norris back in 2014 with the lap record of 1 minute 53 seconds, 0.104. So let's see what these drivers can do. We've got about roughly 10 minutes of qualifying left before we have a long 20-minute race up ahead. Right now, all the drivers are on the grid. They're trying to push out the fastest lap possible. Typically in a qualifying session like this, the car that has the fastest lap goes on pole position in the front end of the grid, and then the drivers are sequentially slotted in based on the fastest lap that they can push out in the short sprint time trial session, so to speak. Although the circuit in general looks quite simple on paper, it's actually very technical, not to mention the extremely high speeds that can really get that adrenaline boosted through the driver's mind. You see a very brilliant camera angle over here, rotating view of Udit Sen's race car going through the second chicane sequence here on this racetrack. So maybe when we get to the beginning of another lap, we can see an onboard footage. But as of now, just try to enjoy the scenery, the scenic beauty of having an amazing racetrack like this situated in a nice little forested area just north of Milan, and quite a little bit of a distance away from Ferrari's factory, but is definitely the pride of all Italians in the racing world. So a little bit about the cars themselves. They push out about 180 to about 200 horsepower at about 5,500 RPM. Maximum torque of about 250 Newton meter that you can pull off at around the 3,500 RPM mark. These cars are no doubt very, they're not really very light. They're about 525 kilograms, but still quite light given its size. So you can see quite a lot of performance coming out of these cars. Like I told you, they might not be the fastest in the open wheel race cars, but they're brilliant little cars to start off with, to start driving, to get used to the setup. As we get on board with Kunal Mahatre as he rounds off the final corner, let's see if he can get on board for a lap. Maybe he can push out his one of his flying laps at the end of this one. He's a little bit off pace this time around. He's at the 1 minute 56.28 mark. Let's see if he continues going down this main straight. This is where the cars will pick up maximum speed. He's already maxed out in 6th gear right now, hitting about the 226, 227, maxing out at 228 kilometers per hour, just heavy on the brakes now as he gets into this technical sequence. Going a little wide over there, but this is the first chicane. Got to be very careful over here. If you get too throttle happy or go wide, you can get onto the gravel trap. We now go through Curva Grande, the second corner in this racetrack, trying to stick to the inside, but slowly move over to the left end as the track widens out. This is where you need to be mentally prepared for the second chicane sequence, the Variante della Roggia. This is again very technical. You want to stay off those curbs. They can definitely jack the car up, and you don't want that to happen because you will either understeer or oversteer based on which tire you actually prop up onto the curb. Going through Lesmo 1 now, a fast flick, right-hander. The next Lesmo, however, is a little bit more technical. Got to be really careful here. Just kiss the curb, go over on that bank, extend onto the green AstroTurf as you get down into the next main straight sequence. This is the popular DRS passing zone. You go over here underneath the old circuit, the banking up ahead, but you pass right underneath that and you go through the fastest sector in this track. This is the Ascari chicane. Just go down one gear, take a quick left, stick to the right side. Don't go too wide over here. You've got a gravel trap over there. He's taken it excellently through that corner. Again, going up a gear as you round off the final straight for this track. Get up to 6th gear, but you got to be careful because the next corner can really catch you out. It's one that doesn't have a clearly defined apex. Gets onto the left side, heavy on the brakes, turns in, tries to aim for an early apex, but he can't do it this time around. He's taking a wider line, which is good. He's able to carry the momentum, but you got to be careful here. You go too wide and you can get your lap times deleted. As he goes across the line, he gets a 56.437. Again, not as fast as his last time around, but that just shows you how difficult it is to actually nail a perfect lap around the circuit. Got more cars now going down on the back straight. Just about 6 minutes left. If anybody's in the pits, they'd want to get out now, put out an installation lap and get a couple of laps on board. Approximately going to take them about 1 minute 50 to up to maybe even 2 minutes to get across the circuit, to get around this racetrack. So you want to time it right so you get the maximum number of laps on board. As soon as that timer hits 0, however, everyone who's on their flying lap will have to finish that lap and finish their own sessions. So if you don't get a lap out right now, you could be in big trouble. As the order stands, Mr. Bean is right now up in the top of the leaderboards by a clear margin of 0.4 of a second. That is an eternity in racing speeds. But right now he's just trying to warm up his tires, trying to get up to speed. Hopefully he stays out of the way if a lot of the other cars start catching up to him. It doesn't look like it. He's got it under control. He's gonna be preparing himself to push out one more faster lap, because right now it only seems like 2 other drivers are in the 1 minute 51s. It's either gonna be Udit Sen or Krishanu who are gonna be able to challenge Mr. Bean into the second half of this qualifying session. Once again starting another lap. This time Udit has a little bit of an advantage. He is using the slipstream to the car up ahead. Slipstreaming is usually a racing tactic that is used to basically reduce the amount of drag on your cars. If you can get into that little vacuum, that little pocket of air in the car in front, that's definitely going to help you propel and get some more speed and really fly on to get some more speed into the car and effectively reduce the lap time that you're going to be pulling out. Very crucial in a track like this where you're always going to be on straights and you want to make sure that you get every little bit of advantage that you can on straight sections where you really don't have much else to do on the racetrack. Taking this very conservatively, but that looks extremely smooth by Udit. He's only 0.15 seconds off the leader space right now. Let's see if he can gain that time anywhere in this sector. Again, taking it quite cautiously. Typically, a much bigger car would take this right on the curbs. These cars are a little smaller, so it seems like you have a little bit more flexibility for the line you can take there. If at all, is one thing that's at least good news for us viewers, because that means you could potentially see a lot of overtaking. Not something that you usually see in a track like this, apart from the slipstreaming DRS zones. Udit once again getting into the Ascari chicane, going very carefully on the curbs over there. He's probably running softer spring setup. I'm not too sure about that one, but he has got a little bit of a fishtail out of that corner, managed to hold on to it. So let's see what his time is going to be this time around. In these cars, it feels almost like an eternity down these straights, but the longer you spend on the straight, the more time you have to position yourself for another slipstreaming overtake. This is something else you can all look out for in the race that's going to start in just about 5 to 6 minutes time once qualifying is over. Udit once again going across the line. He's at 1 minute 53.177. He's 1.7 seconds off his personal best, so he's still got a little bit of time to improve. But if he doesn't do something fast, it's probably going to be Mr. Bean who takes the pole position. We've got Steve George over here going through the Ascari chicane, getting a very good exit over there. Steve trying to maximize his speed now, perhaps latching onto another little slipstream over there, little pocket of air in a car that's up ahead. Looks like the car ahead is just trying to warm up their tires, but Steve is not going to pay any mind to that. He'll take every advantage he can down the straight. Takes a very smooth entry into the final corner into Parabolica. He's gonna have to carry that momentum if he wants to improve his lap time. It's 1 minute 50 already. Doesn't look like he's gonna be close to the leaders over there, but he is in 4th position. Definitely gonna be a contender if this is his pace during the race as well. Excellent view of the pit straight over there. It'd be great to see some passing moves. Hopefully during the races, there's a big moment for Utkarsh Kumar over there. He seems to have a massive fishtail as he got into that corner. Perhaps he should bias his brakes a little bit more forward. It looked like he almost locked up the rear. He sparked away in the side. It doesn't look like he's going to get one more lap out there, because if he's back in the pits, he's not going to make it around in time for another lap. And Abhimanyu Menon gets a huge spin off that curb. You got to be ever so slightly, you got to be very careful with the throttle over there. You shouldn't get too throttle happy or too trigger happy into that section. But that seems to be the end of his qualifying session. Let's see how the other drivers fare. Neeraj starting another run, going through Curva Grande, getting ready for a very crucial corner here. The chicane that seems to be catching out many drivers alike and has caught out many drivers over the decades in which races have been conducted in Monza. He got a good exit there. He's already 1/100th of a second faster than his previous lap, going through Lesmo very cleanly once again. Let's see if he has any sort of assistance down the main straight. Doesn't look like it. He's all out there by himself. This has got to be pure raw pace at this point. So let's see what he can pull off. Getting ready for another crucial corner. This is where he's either going to make it or break it. Let's see, he's 1:16.997. He's already a second off his pace. Again, going through this section. Doesn't seem to have too much trouble over here. Quite smooth, and he's got traffic over there. I wonder if that's going to hinder his lap. Looks like Faisal's going really slow. Doesn't seem like he's going to be completing this lap on any sort of time that can get him up the grid. And there are only 20 seconds left, so let's see who else can start another lap. Mr. Bean seems to be on his final lap right now. Let's see if he can beat his own personal best. He's got a 40.811 on the money. He's got it right on the dot. He's not made any improvements here. Let's see if he can do it in this section. This is the more technical of the sections. This is where he can really gain time in an otherwise well-balanced and evenly spaced out class. All these cars are running the same spec, which means that it's completely based on pure driver skill, and all of the performances of these cars are the same. Looks like most drivers have now backed out in their final runs, and it seems like this is going to be the order unless Udit Sen can pull off something magical in this lap. The same goes for Steve George. He's in the middle part of the track. Udit rounding out the final corner. Let's look at the timing screens and see if he makes any improvements, if he can challenge Mr. Bean and take it to the line. And he's gone into the pit, so he's aborted his final lap. It doesn't look like he thought he's going to improve, so he decided to just dive back into the pits, get a little bit of respite, get a little bit of rest before the race actually starts. Monza is a mental game. It might seem fairly simple, it might just seem like a drag race, but it's certainly anything but that. Got to manage those tires. In spite of it just being a 20-minute race, you've got to keep in mind that in 20 minutes a lot can happen. It's generally in the first half of any race, in the first 20 to 30 minutes of any high performance race, that a lot of action actually takes place. So let's see if any of this plays out into the results. Steve George coming across, just rounding off the final corner. He's trying to aim into the 1 minute 51s, maybe mids. It doesn't seem to do it this time by, so Steve George is gonna have to settle for 5th place as the order stands. Looks like a bit of netcode error over there, but that was something interesting. Interesting way to end that session. Neeraj well off the pace at this point, but let's see if he can improve anywhere else on the grid. He's already at the 1 minute 53. Doesn't look like he's going to make it this time around, and he's having a little bit of fun on the last corner over there. We're expecting him to dive into the pits to end his session as well, and that's precisely what he does. Faisal's last man on track right now, but he's already in the 1 minute 40, so it doesn't look like he's going to make any improvements either. Right now starting 13th on the grid, couple of seconds off the pace, so there's going to be a good midfield battle all the way from 7th till about 14th, maybe 13th place on the grid. So these are the final qualifying results. You have Mr. Bean all the way up there with a 1 minute 51 169, followed by multiple drivers in the 1 minute 51 mids. So it's going to be a good battle for the, let's say, for maybe 2nd place almost. But if any of them can challenge Mr. Bean into the first corner, they've got a shot at actually winning this thing. Anyhow, it's a little too early to say anything right now. Monza turn number 1, the chicane is always chaotic. So let's hope everyone keeps it clean over there and we have some good hardcore racing to come up in the next 20 minutes. We're all on the grid. 5 lights are out and all the drivers have gotten underway. Mr. Bean's got a decent start right now. You see all the cars just trying to find any sort of gap that they can up to this line, up to the run into the first corner. Someone seems to be making a move into the first corner, but Mr. Bean's gotten through quite cleanly. There's a lot of pandemonium going on over there, multiple cars getting on the grass. There might be some time penalties for cutting the corner over there, so we need to wait and see how the grid shuffles up. But for the most part, it looks like most of the drivers have got through quite cleanly and can now focus and start building up the temperature in their tires. You see, Mr. Bean already has a decent start over there. Udit Sen, Vishwas, Vijay Raja, Steve George and Krishanu all coming up to wrap up the top 5. Got a few cars going over here trying to make a move into the second chicane sequence. Many cars going wide over there, but no one spun just yet. Seems like everybody is really able to find out the absolute limits of their cars. Utkarsh right now on camera, facing pressure. He's coming under pressure from Neeraj up behind. Let's see if any sort of moves get made over here. You can see they're heavy on the brakes. The brake disc just glowing over there. Neeraj now under the clutches of Rohit, who's coming up from behind. Multiple cars trying to make a move over here. Neeraj going on the outside, trying to make a move on Rohit once again. Let's see if he can defend into this corner. He's right there at the back. Rohit seems to have this one right now. He's got the better line into Ascari, and both of them seem to go wide. Both of them have lost a lot of time in the process. They're dropping down the order, and it looks like Rohit has lost out the most in that battle over there. Faisal's got away. He's got up in front of Neeraj, so it's good to see he's building up the pace from his qualifying. Let's see what happens into the upcoming corner. We're going to round off the lap over here. We're coming up to the final corner to wrap up the first official lap of this Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Danny Thomas on camera now trying to take a more conservative line over here. He's got to be careful. He's having almost a sort of drag race with the car behind with Faisal. It's going to be Mr. Bean again, once again, out in front. But the gap doesn't seem to be too big. It looks like Udit is managing to hold on. There are about 17 minutes left, expecting a total of about 10 to 11 laps left in this race, including this one. So there's still plenty of time for a lot of chaos, or in this case, a lot of good driving to come up and actually see who can actually apply their skills and get all the way up to the top. Right now, they're just focused on getting their tires up to temperature, but we have a lot of clusters of cars and a nice gaggle of cars towards the end. Steve George making a move on Krishanu this time by holding the line on the inside. He's managed to get away with it into the second chicane, but at the moment, it doesn't look like Krishanu wants to give that position back. He's holding on to his slipstream. Krishanu's going to have the better slipstream over here. He's perhaps going to want to do, he's going to want to have a more patient approach here. He's got the better line. Steve has gone wide, and this has opened up the gap for Krishanu to take that position away. Once again, Krishanu is having the better line into this corner. He's clearly ahead. His nose is up ahead, but let's hope the same problem that happened last time doesn't happen here with these two cars, where we don't want any collisions over here. Both of them have gone smoothly, but no, once again Krishanu seems to have lost the rear over there, and that's taken out Steve in the process. In all of this, Utkarsh come out to be the winner. He's taken away both those positions. He's up to 4th position with Yash Pikle right behind him. Steve George and Krishanu will have a lot of work to do. There might be a few words exchanged at the end of the race between them, but as the order stands, it looks like Vishwas Jain has managed to get up into 3rd place, and Mr. Bean is still up ahead. No, he's not. It looks like Udit has managed to get past him again. Maybe that's just a timing glitch. By the looks of it, it looks like Mr. Bean is still ahead, but not by much. Let's see if any more overtakes happen into this corner. Udit is a little far back at this point to make any sort of a lunge. So he's going to have to stay on Mr. Bean's gearbox and just try to pressurize him into making some sort of a mistake. The best bet, as you see Utkarsh going around that corner, that looked almost like he was spinning out. That was a little scary at the moment, but that just shows how brilliant the rotation of these cars are. The amount of grip that you have in these chicane sequences, and they're just mechanically bound to the track. It certainly helps that they have some aerodynamic downforce as well to help them through these faster corners. But right now, it's just about maintaining your pace, being consistent and not messing up, giving space to your competitors and making sure that you can get cleanly through this race. For in order to finish on the top, you first need to be able to finish the race, and that's precisely what these drivers are focusing to do right now. Steve George down in 6th place. He might have got a little bit of contact. He might have been in a little bit of trouble last lap, but he's certainly not given up, and he's right up there with that gaggle of cars. The battle for 3rd place is definitely on. It looks like Krishanu has gone a little wide over there. I suspect he might have some damage from that collision in the previous lap. We'll need to wait and see if there are any updates on that. Just a little bit over 14 minutes left, and up till now it's been brilliant racing all across the field. We've got a nice spread, a nice little platter of race cars all around this racetrack, this plate so to speak, and you've got these cars again trying to edge their way up in front. At this point, if you don't have any car in front, if you do not have a drag, a drafting slipstream advantage, you're simply going to be a sitting duck into any heavy braking zone, and a car has stopped on the main grid. I don't know if that's netcode error. It looks a little bit glitchy, but I'm not too sure. Yes, it looks like a car is parked over there. That seems to be the car of, is that Siddharth Snell? Looks like he's parked on the side. I will need to double check that. But in the meanwhile, everybody seems to be getting cleanly through another lap over here in the Monza circuit. Vishwas Vijay Raja right now having a little bit of a lonely race. Both the leaders, Mr. Bean and Udit Sen, right up there in the front running away, and a lot of chaos going on right behind Vishwas. So it seems like he's going to have to just manage his tires and hope that something happens between these two cars up ahead, because he's quite a long way behind the top two runners, the people who are battling for first place. Udit once again taking a very aggressive line over there, just riding the curbs once again, and you can see from the line that Mr. Bean is taking that both of them are trying to take very similar approaches to these corners. They're trying to take the most aggressive, the most risky, but also potentially the most rewarding way around this racetrack. excellent on board here as he breaks into the Ascari chicane. Just see how he just manages to clip that curb, doesn't want to get into those yellow and black sausage curbs over there. They can actually push the car up, jack up the front, and you can actually understeer into the gravel. Very smoothly done over there, and it's impressive to see how focused he is, and he's able to just stay in his slipstream. It doesn't seem like Mr. Bean's got the raw pace advantage that he had in qualifying, and that just goes to show how much you can gain by finding a little bit of space and that little pocket of air that's bleeding off of these race cars from the end of those rear wings. Once again, we're starting another lap, 12 minutes 30 seconds, roughly about 9 to 10 laps of racing left at this point. Maybe a little bit less than that, actually, my mistake, perhaps 6 to 7, almost a 2-minute lap time around the circuit, and it seems like cars are slowly starting to get a little faster. The fuel loads are gradually decreasing, the car needs to pull less weight, and let's see if that plays in to the straight line advantage that will gradually start building up more and more as the race goes on. Multiple moves going on here into the first straight for another lap around the circuit. Bunch of cars over here. Looks like a good gaggle of cars, all batting it out for potentially, I think, 12th position, 12th, well, not necessarily 12th, looks more like 7th or 8th position by the looks of it. Abhimanyu Menon coming up, wrapping up the end of that gaggle of cars, but no, he's actually managed to get past Divyang Dodia, or rather Rohit, who has gone wide over there. So it looks like Abhimanyu's gained a spot in the process, and he is now on a charge to catch up with Danny Thomas, Siddharth Snell, and all the other cars that are right up ahead of him. These cars can just, from the driver's perspective, they can actually see their competitors just there in the distance, so tantalizingly close. They just need to make sure that every lap they push out is just a little bit better than the drivers that are right up ahead. Yash Piklay now can see Krishanu right in front of him. This looks like an overtaking move that's in the making, that's about to happen. Look at that advantage. Yash Piklay now getting a good run up. He's gonna have to back off over here if he doesn't want collision. That's what he does. He wants to get a good run up out of this corner and just stick to the rear end, stick to the gearbox of the car up ahead, so that he could potentially make a move down the main straight. It's always that main straight and that long straight before the Ascari chicane where you see the raw performance, where you see that raw pace actually kicking in. It's about getting a good exit over here. Yash Piklay once again rounding off a Parabolica, as he goes a little bit just at the edge over there. He can definitely see 6th place. He can definitely see 5th place right up ahead. It's very close. He can get it, but he just needs to wait a little longer. Udit Sen over here charging, trying to catch up with Siddharth and Ashwin right in front of him. And he's got a few cars. He's got Abhimanyu and Rohit coming up from behind. They're a good long way behind right now, but in 10 minutes, anything can happen. Let's see if he makes a move down into this corner. It's not quite there yet. He's still a couple of car lengths away, and he's right there on the tail end. He's got a much better exit out of that corner. He's got a wider exit. Let's see if this momentum actually carries him through Curva Grande. Once again, you can see Udit taking a much wider line into this section. And it seems like in all this, something happened to Udit during the past few laps, because that's now I'm realizing he's coincidentally fallen down from 2nd place. So I don't know what's happened over there, but he's lost a lot of time in the last couple of laps, and now he's on a charge to salvage anything as he picks off one more position while Ashwin goes wide into the gravel traps. He goes through Lesmo, latching onto the back of Siddharth Snell, trying to get as much speed as he can out of this section, and he's getting through Lesmo 2 again. This is where he's got an advantage because he's the car behind. He's got a slipstream. Once again, he's right up there. Is he going to go on the left side or the right? Seems like the right side is open, but it is the more risky side. You've got the outer part of this corner, but then you get the inside as soon as the second half of the chicane comes. He doesn't need to worry about that because he's managed to beautifully get across and get past Siddharth Snell, and now he's on a charge to catch up with the rest of the cars up ahead. The podium spot is still up for grabs, but he's gonna really have to work for his money today to get onto that podium, to get into the top 3 finishers. Meanwhile, it looks like Danny Thomas had gone into the pits, maybe to repair something on his car. Did he have some damage? Maybe a damaged front wing. It couldn't have been a suspension member because that would have taken a lot longer to actually get to the pits. Anyhow, he's down there in 17th position. He's gonna have to battle and claw his way up Not much he can do in 8 minutes, but I'm pretty sure if he can get up to 10th place, that is a good way to end this race. Let's see what happens over there. Divyang way at the back of the field. He had some problems in the main straight a few laps behind, and he seems to be struggling on pace back here as well. He's on a charge at the time being. A lot of things are going on. The track is filled with race cars. They're all over the place, and if you were to look at this racetrack in a helicopter view from up in the sky, you would be thoroughly confused as to who is whom, because all these cars look exactly the same. You'll have to completely rely on the raw speed, the raw pace that these cars are able to push out. There's a couple of cars in the pits. Looks like a lot of collisions may have happened off camera in the past few laps. Right now, focusing on Kunal Mahatre in 12th place, seems to be having a very lonely race as well. Not many cars around him, so he's going to want to just focus and get that car across the line. To finish in a legendary track like this, to finish a race in a very difficult and technical track is a great achievement on its own. And that's precisely what all of these drivers will be focusing on doing right now. A great selection of input hardware being used by these drivers. Some of them are actually using a racing wheel, some prefer to use a controller, and some are actually on the keyboard using digital signals, tapping their way through the keyboard to get that car up to speed. So wide range of skill levels being seen here in this race. Some of the drivers are even using a mouse, to use a computer mouse to actually give an analog input. It's great to see the different sort of innovative solutions that people are bringing in to their sim racing experiences. This is a great way to test out different hardware inputs. Everybody knows that the wheel is the more ideal, the more realistic way to go, but what's wrong in having a little fun once in a while and using a joystick or a mouse to really get a very different experience? It's almost like you're using VR. You're having a completely different experience of the same racing series that you would run with a steering wheel. You can see how much the cars are having to slow down into that chicane. You can see it's very slow, that camera angle, that just shows that these cars are having to be very heavy into these corners, heavy on the brakes. If you go too wide over there, if you go too fast over there, you will find yourself in the gravel trap, a fate that is usually a lot worse than even piling it into the wall, because to get something out of a gravel trap it takes forever, especially when you're in that cockpit view. Luckily, however, we've been having clean laps from everyone all around. It looks like everyone's evenly spaced as well. And as I say that, Krishanu goes for a nice little spin on the beach in Lesmo 2. That's opened up the gap for Udit to take that position. Unfortunate, he may have clipped the curb over there, but in this process, he's lost not just one, but 2 positions. Ashwin A has gotten past him as well, and Krishanu will be kicking himself for that. He's got only 5 minutes left. Let's see if he can get 2, 3, or even 4 more positions up by the end of the race. He's got the pace. He's had it in qualifying. Let's see if he can claw his way back up, just like this man over here, Udit Sen, who's been having a stellar set of laps in the past 5 trips around this circuit. He's charging. He wants that podium position back. I don't know what happened a few laps back, but he has lost out big time from second place, and he will want some serious redemption by the end of this Grand Prix. Utkarsh Kumar having a nice little sight, tantalizingly close to that podium position that Steve George is right now holding. Yash Pikle making a good move, and this is a great camera perspective. You can see the bird's eye view. This really shows the racing action. It really shows how far away these cars are relative to each other. About a good 15 or 20 car lengths, but in racing times, that's something like 0.1 or 2 seconds. These guys are going super quick around this temple of speed, around the legendary Monza circuit. We've got 4 minutes of racing left, just a couple of laps left by the looks of it. Depends on where the leader is, but as the order stands, Mr. Bean is running away with this race with Vishwas Vijayaraj in second place, a solid second place, while Steve George, Yash Pikle, and now Utkarsh Kumar are all going to start battling it out for that final podium position. To win a race is one thing, to be on a podium is also prestigious, and that is exactly what Yash Pikle has managed to do right here. He's made an excellent move into Lesmo 2, a very risky place to make a maneuver like that, but he managed to get past Steve over there. Let's just wait for the leaderboard to update once. Tight-knit battle over here going on between Yash, Steve and Utkarsh. Utkarsh in 5th place over there. Just seeing both those drivers up ahead, all of them going quite cleanly through the Ascari section. Pretty sure the leaderboard will update shortly as they go by another on-track, timing sensor, so to speak. But as the order stands, some of these cars are starting to get lapped now. Unsurprising to see that happen in a 20-lap race, especially when a lot of chaos happens. We've got a wide variety of drivers, a lot of drivers who have bravely decided to attempt this race, a wide range of skill levels seen on the grid. But as the order stands, we've got some racers really running away with the race all the way up in front. Arvind having quite a quiet race over here. Haven't seen much of him on camera, but he doesn't have a lot of respite over there. It looks like a car which he is actually racing is charging up behind him. This is where he's gonna want to start making some defensive moves. Let's see what else happens into the upcoming corners. About this point, towards the end of the race, these tires must all be completely shot up, and it looks like people will need to start biasing their brakes a little bit rearwards just to get a little better of a turn in into these corners. Looks like Utkarsh is now battling it out again, and I stand corrected. It seems like it's 4th to 6th place that's been battling it out all this time. I've unnecessarily pulled Steve George into this battle when it seems like he's been having a comfortable race. Not what is happening for Utkarsh over here. He spun into Lesmo 2 and he's going to have to wait for cars to go back. That's the long way around into the gravel traps, but it looks like the only way to get around. Steve holding a solid 3rd place. Unfortunate mix-up over there. I thought he was battling with the cars behind, but it looks like he's been having a stellar race up here. And is that Vishwas Vijayaraja up ahead? Is that his competitor is able to see up ahead? Yes, it is. He's going through the final corner, Parabolica. This could potentially be the last, if not the penultimate lap. And is this battle on? Is Steve gonna be able to make a charge into 2nd place? Let's see. This is perhaps the last lap. Depends on where Mr. Bean is, but Vishwas has crossed the line to do another lap around the circuit, and let's see how the order tumbles, if at all it does. Mr. Bean is way up in front. He's going through Curva Grande right now, and he's finding his way into the 2nd chicane sequence. It looks like this is going to be the last lap because you only have about 40 seconds remaining on the clock. Mr. Bean's had a solid drive. He may have been a spy in Johnny English, but here he is a solid race car driver. He's pulling away. He's getting into Lesmo 1, going off into a wide exit for Lesmo 2. Vishwas Vijayaraja coming into the 2nd chicane sequence. He's a good about 10 to 12 seconds behind Steve at this point. 10 to 12 seconds behind Mr. Bean at this point in time. Steve is way back behind Vishwas. Mr. Bean having to just navigate a few more corners and perhaps one more car in the process. That is definitely going to be a blue flag for the car up ahead because Mr. Bean is flying away with this race, going through the last potential corner where you can actually make a mistake in this track. He's gone through very smoothly, and he is going to be ecstatic to have a runaway victory. It's been a little grand slam for Mr. Bean in this weekend, or rather this little mini session. He's had all 3, the practice, qualifying and race runs, on the top of the table, and he will be thrilled to come across the line cleanly as he rounds off the final corner. He's getting onto the main straight. We're well into the respite period, and there it is. Mr. Bean weaving around the track. My apologies. He's weaving around and enjoying his victory. Are we going to see some donuts up ahead? Let's wait and see, because that would be a perfect way to end this stream. But Vishwas Vijayaraja has managed to hold on to 2nd place. He will be thrilled with that result. Again, weaving about, having the time of his life as he crosses the line in these beautifully liveried cars. You have Steve George coming up to round off 3rd place, Yash Piklay in 4th, just a little bit off from the podium, but he would be quite happy with that result. We've got Udit Sen, however, who will be quite disappointed. At least he managed to get back into the top 5, but he was a serious contender for the 1st place on this grid just at the beginning of the race, or actually for a good part of the first half of the race. The rest of the order is Krishanu Ashwin, followed by Rohit KS, Abhimanyu Menon coming up behind him. Then you've got Utkarsh, Arvind R to wrap up the top 12 of this exciting exhibition race. Everybody's wrapping up, everyone's waiting on that final chicane sequence. And this was a great way to end the stream. that race. That has been an absolute pleasure to watch, and I hope all of you viewers had the time of your lives enjoying that race. It's been action packed with a lot of chaos in the beginning, some brilliant driving from all drivers all across the grid, and some interesting grid shuffles towards the end of that race. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to race directors for hosting, for taking care of all the drivers on the grid, Feroz and Gaurav. This is Saidat Ramesh signing off on behalf of IR Esports and AKEF. Thank you so much for watching.